Muhammad Ali. You know the name, of course. You know the legend. But here's the thing. His most important fights, they weren't for some championship belt. We're going to talk about the man who fought for something way bigger, a fight that took him far, far outside the ring.
I mean, in the ring, he was just the greatest. Simple as that. A heavyweight champion with a style no one had ever seen before. So fast, so powerful, just completely dominant. This photo, this is the moment. He's just beaten Sonny Liston, a victory that was so shocking he famously yelled, "I shook up the world." But honestly, the world had no idea how much more shaking he was about to do.
And this is where our story really kicks into high gear, because for Ali, the real enemy wasn't the guy in the other corner. It was the system that he felt was holding him down back home. This quote, man, it just cuts right to the heart of it all and sets the stage for a battle that was going to cost him pretty much everything. So, how does a young boxer from Louisville, Kentucky become one of the most talked about, most polarizing figures in all of America? Well, it started with this incredible, lightning-fast rise to the very top.
You're gonna love this. It all started because somebody stole his bicycle. Seriously, a 12-year-old Cassius Clay tells a police officer he's gonna whoop the thief. And the cop tells him, well, you better learn how to box first. And wow, did he ever. Just 6 years later, he's an Olympic gold medalist. 4 years after that, at only 22, he's the heavyweight champion of the world. I mean, that's not just a rise, that's a rocket launch.
But here's the thing. He wasn't just a great fighter. He was a whole cultural event. He was loud, he was cocky, he was a poet. He would literally tell everyone the exact round he was going to win a fight, and then he'd go out and do it. He got a lot of that showmanship from wrestlers like Gorgeous George, and he created this persona, the Louisville Lip, that the quiet, serious world of boxing had absolutely no idea how to handle. And these two pictures, side by side, they tell the whole story. On the left, you've got the young, fresh-faced kid, Cassius Clay, just starting out. And on the right, that's the ferocious, undeniable champion, Muhammad Ali. The physical change is pretty obvious, but the real transformation, the one that mattered, was all happening on the inside. And that internal transformation, well, it wasn't going to stay internal for long. This was the big turning point, where his fame as a boxer slammed right into a new identity and a brand new fight. So get this, right after he becomes champion, he drops an absolute bombshell. He's joining the Nation of Islam, and he's getting rid of the name Cassius Clay, calling it his slave name. From now on, he's Muhammad Ali. This wasn't just changing his name, it was a total declaration of independence. He was rejecting the identity that America had given him. And then came the moment that would define his entire life. When he was drafted to fight in the Vietnam War, Ali refused. His reasoning, right here in this quote, was so direct and so powerful. For him, the real enemy wasn't thousands of miles away. It was the injustice he saw right in his own backyard. Now, taking a stand like that was incredibly powerful, but the backlash was just immediate and unbelievably severe. The establishment came down on him with everything they had. I mean, the consequences were swift and they were total. They basically erased him from the sport he completely dominated. His title was stripped, his boxing license suspended in every state. And then he was convicted of a felony and sentenced to 5 years in prison. The heavyweight champion of the world was now a convicted criminal. For 3.5 years. Let that sink in. 3.5 years. While he was appealing his case all the way to the Supreme Court, Muhammad Ali was banned from fighting. Just think about that. You have the greatest athlete on the entire planet, in the absolute physical prime of his career, and he's not allowed to do his job. His own trainer, Angelo Dundee, he put it best. He was robbed. Not by some other boxer, but by his own government, all for standing by his convictions. And you know what? The world was robbed too, of seeing the greatest at his absolute greatest. But then, in 1971, the Supreme Court overturned his conviction. And you know what that means, right? The stage was finally set for one of the most incredible comeback stories in the history of sports. But it wasn't some fairy tale comeback, not at all. In 1971, he faces the undefeated champ, Joe Frazier, in the fight of the century, and he lost. It was his first professional defeat ever. And you could see those years of being away had taken their toll. A lot of people thought, well, that's it. The old Ali is gone for good. Which brings us to 1974, in Zaire. Ali is now 32, which is kind of getting up there in boxing years, and he's challenging the new champion, a younger, terrifying, undefeated knockout machine named George Foreman. And Foreman had just destroyed the two guys who had beaten Ali. So yeah, almost nobody gave Ali a chance. But Ali, he had a plan, and it was a crazy, brilliant plan. Instead of his famous dancing, he just leaned back on the ropes and let this monster, George Foreman, just wail on him, punch after punch, absorbing all of it. He called it the rope-a-dope. It was a strategy so wild, it went against everything anyone had ever learned about boxing.
And then, in the 8th round, it happened. Foreman had punched himself into complete exhaustion. He was just a sitting duck, and Ali came off the ropes, unleashed this furious combination, and knocked Foreman down and out. Against all odds, 10 years after he first won it, Muhammad Ali was the heavyweight champion of the world all over again.
You don't have to take my word for it. Just listen to what George Foreman himself said. This wasn't just a physical win, it was psychological warfare. The fact that Ali could take that punishment and still trash talk him in the middle of a hug, it was just unbreakable. He broke Foreman's will long before he knocked out his body. So when it's all said and done, what is the lasting impact of this absolutely incredible life? Well, his legacy is really two-sided, right? On one side, you've got the boxer. The numbers speak for themselves. A 3-time champ, Olympic gold, the greatest. But on the other side, you've got the icon. The guy who took on his own government, who became a symbol for counterculture and civil rights, and who completely changed what it meant to be an athlete. And even after he hung up the gloves, even after a devastating Parkinson's diagnosis in '84, his fight just never stopped. He just changed the arena. He became this global ambassador for peace and humanitarian causes, using his voice to make a difference in the world long after the crowds in the ring stopped cheering. Ali's life really leaves us with a huge question. He used his platform to force a really difficult conversation and to fight for his beliefs, even sacrificing his best years to do it. And it really makes you wonder, in today's world with so many athletes with these massive platforms, whose voice really carries that same kind of weight today?